What is something that your elders have taught you that you still carry on in your everyday life?
I think the biggest lesson, there are many, is everything that I've been blessed with, sort of the way I look, the way I think, my body, everything belongs to this river of a family. Like, you know, the people who came before me have developed a set of talents, developed specialty, and sort of their capability. All that just gets passed on from one generation to the next. And so I am operating on borrowed talent and borrowed time.
Yeah.
And I feel like my job then is to set it up so that I can pass that on to the next generation. And so that's a big sort of point in our family. And social justice. We do a lot of work around advocating for the voiceless, and getting into the community to make sure we are helping those who need help.
Right.
And then lastly, I would imagine our faith in we're Catholics. And so there are members in our family who I consider personal heroes,
Of course.
who've gone on and really lived that life. And so I'd like to introduce
Yes.
someone who's very special to me. So this is my uncle, my maternal uncle. He is Monsignor Huai, and he was an instrumental in my life in terms of talking about learning and appreciating the global aspect of what we can do. Like it's micro, but there's so much more that you can do on a global basis.
Yeah.
And so he really stressed with me the importance of education but it wasn't just education for myself. It was education so that I can go on and do sort of help people on a global basis. When I was in high school, I received a scholarship to go to Japan. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I was selected to choose. I was selected as two individuals to represent the state of Oklahoma.
Wow.
And I received a scholarship. And our family was on welfare, free lunches and things like that.
Yeah.
So, even if I went on this trip, there was still spending money that was required. There was all like other stuff that was required. And we just didn't have the money for it. But so my uncle was able to support me on that. And that set a trajectory of my life as it relates to global, as it relates to Asia. I was able to develop Japanese as a language, as a capability that opened lots of doors for me. And so, to loop back to your question about sort of what it means, what our elders have taught us is not only sort of helping the world, but also helping the members in our family to take it to the next level. Because again, we're all working on borrowed talent, borrowed time, and how do we sort of maximize that? But I think oftentimes we talk about respecting your elders, and sort of we talk about appreciating your elders. But like when you dig into it, like why is that important? Like really? And then when we think about the river of time, and we think about our DNA comes from a pool of DNA, and our talent come from a pool of talent that is part of this family, then I think it contextualizes, at least for me, like why there is this connectivity between myself and those who've gone before me.
Alluded to this question that I wanted to ask, which was, what does family mean to you?
So I think at the core of family for me is just a deep loyalty of nurturing. Like, so across the board, obviously the physical, but also the emotional, right? The emotional nurturing and the spiritual nurturing. And I think recognizing family is that safe place where regardless of what happens out in the world, you come back to sort of this unconditional nurture and support. So to me, that's the core of family. And then beyond that, I think each family has its own culture, right? Just like a country has a culture, a company has a culture, like each family has its own culture. and identifying early, or not just early, just identifying within the family what's important to you, what's important to your culture. And so for us, that nurturing that element is really important. And in our faith within our family is crucial. And so all that gets sort of entwined in how we interact and how we connect with uncles and aunts.
Right.
And we it's important for us to connect with on a regular basis as much as we can in this world. These are my parents.
Oh, that's a really good picture.
Yeah, so this was taken probably 6-7 years ago in Del Mar while they were visiting. My dad has passed. My mom is still alive. And they are amazing individuals. So we're originally from Vietnam. So the Vietnam War, we were able to extract ourselves from that through their leadership and their conviction and their courage, and some very crucial decisions that they made along the way, which when I think about like some of the issues I deal with, I'm like, I'm not fleeing a war.
You're right. And that's quite a big change.
Yeah. So I channel them a lot, or him a lot, in terms of our family and how they work together in very rough situations, being, a new country, being poor, being and sort of certain family tragedies that we experienced, and doing a tremendous job of keeping our family together, and stressing the importance of education and the importance of getting out into the world, and making a mark and doing sort of making the world a better place.
Would you say you would identify with the Vietnamese culture? And if so, what does that culture mean to you?
So the Vietnamese culture, I was born in Vietnam, came to the U.S. We left when I was 5. We got to the U.S. when I was 7. We spent a couple years in Europe before we came here. We have a fairly global family. We got families in Amsterdam, we got family in Rome, we got family in Japan, we have family obviously in Vietnam. And so in our particular family, our culture, the Vietnamese culture is, unfortunately in the last sort of, because of the war, defined by struggles, right? And so for better or for worse, it creates a pretty gritty group of people. The Vietnamese culture for us, and the importance of food, obviously.
Yes.
We spend a lot of time with food. We spend a lot of time around food. We spend a lot of time talking about food. We spend a lot of time eating food. And so that's huge for us. The more, the merrier as it relates to sort of family gathering. It's chaotic. It's confusing. Who's doing what? No one knows, but it all somehow comes together. And you got the kids table and you got the adult table, and then you got, random games happening. And so for me growing up, we spent a lot of time around the Catholic holidays because we're Catholic, and we spent a lot of time around the Catholic Church. So for me, the Vietnamese Catholic culture is really sort of what defines it for me. Highly based on sort of community and all the messiness that comes with community, right? Like the great things get done, but also there's a lot of tensions and gossips, but whatever, right? But that's what makes it fun, right?
Right.
And so for us, the culture is that, and I think sometimes people forget that the Vietnamese culture has, beyond the Tết and the lantern festivals, there are these little sort of celebration of changing of the seasons and sort of the recognition of especially around weddings too, right? Like sort of changing of major life affirming events.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the pageantry and sort of the colorfulness, and the fact that it still thrives today. Like people, and especially the young people, doing their best to kind of keep that going.
Right. Yeah. Just wanted to hear what your thoughts are when you hear the word Asian joy.
So when I hear that term Asian joy, I think that resonates across many different cultures I've been to, right? And so I went to a Korean New Year celebration, and it could have been a Vietnamese New Year celebration. It was the same sort of around food, around sort of community. And so when I hear that term, Asian joy, it is that mixing of food blended with family, and that sort of recognition of where we are as people in that river of time, borrowed all from a very communal pool of family experience and history. And so I brought my kids to that Korean celebration here in town because I wanted them to see obviously different culture, but also sort of the commonality of an immigrant community. And so what I grew up with. And so we were treated very well, and we were total strangers. We were complete outsiders, and the Korean community really were great. So I think one thing that we have not talked about is sort of the love, right? We talk about food, we talk about unconditional support, but I think there is, the English word love just doesn't quite capture sort of the filial piety is not a word I really like, because it brings back like Chinese philosophy class that I took. But this notion of filial connectivity and filial love, that is hard to define, but you got to live it. And so I think that is the thread that kind of loops through all these different elements of food, culture, doing good for the community, history. So this filial love thread, and it's very academic to talk about. It's very abstract to talk about. But you just gotta live it, and you gotta sort of make space for it to thrive. Whether it's within your microcosm of a family or the macro sort of community family, that filial love, I think is super important. And there aren't nice packaged terms for it, and it's a messy concept to talk about. But it's, you know it when you're there.